Hey guys, Robert 3D Printscape. So about a week ago, Cura 5 came out in beta, so I wanted to do a quick video kind of covering what's new. The most notable things is going to be the new icon and splash screen, which doesn't really provide much. It's just more of a cosmetic thing. But the entire slicing engine was swapped out with the new Arachne engine, which is pretty nice. In most cases, it's reduced the speed on a lot of prints. There were a couple that actually increased. I'll show you some examples of both. But for example, with the Baby Yoda STL that I use all the time for examples, it reduced the print time by over an hour, which is substantial. There was a lid that I was testing with, and it actually added 15 minutes to the print time, but that seemed to be the exception. So overall, it's reduced most prints by about 15-20%. I think they advertise up to 20%, which I have actually seen that, which is nice. There are some other features as well, which I'll talk about when we get over to Cura. And they added a lot of bug fixes and added some new printer and material profiles as well, which is pretty nice. Overall, I do like the new engine, and it's a pretty big upgrade. I know it's still in beta. It should be coming out of beta hopefully in a couple weeks or so, but if you don't mind running it in beta, it's worth trying out. And I'll try to get profiles uploaded within the next couple weeks to my site so that you can use those if you want instead of the base ones. Right now I'm still testing with them a little bit more to figure out what works best. And for those of you who've been following my channel for a while, you know that I got the laser kit back around December time, and I haven't really had much time to work with it, but I did spend some time over the last couple of weeks getting that set up, so I'll be doing a video, probably the next one I release, covering the basic install and just getting started with it, but it's pretty cool. Alright, so let's jump over to the computer and I'll show you what's new. Before we do that, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks. Alright guys, so we're here at the computer. First thing I'm going to show you how to do is actually get the beta. On the Cura download page, which I'll link to this in the description below, just go down to Try Cura Ultimaker 5 Beta, click on that, then it's going to link to their GitHub page. From here, it kind of has some information on what's new and all of that, and it also has the downloads at the bottom here, so you want to go down and grab the download associated with the OS you're running. In my case, I am running Windows, so I'm going to grab this one and just download it. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and run through the install. So I'm just going to double click it. It's going to prompt me to run it as admin. I'm just hitting yes. And then I'm going to go through the default install. And this will just take a second, so I'll speed it up. When that's done, go ahead and hit finish, and then you're going to see the new splash screen, which is one of the major upgrades for this release. Really the splash screen and logo, which I'll show you here in a second. You can see here it looks completely different than the original Cura. And I'm going to load that here in a second as well, so you can see it side by side. You can see here that's the original splash screen, so it's much smaller and just not as neat looking. It's just very basic. And that's still the beta for 4.13. I know 4.13.1 was out. I just didn't upgrade to that one specifically. All right, so let's go back over to 4.5. We'll go into help and I'll show you the what's new section. One thing I did want to point out, I had to install this a couple times as I was going through and doing some testing. I had to uninstall all of the plugins that I had. I don't know if they're not compatible or what, but it did force me to uninstall all of them, or it recommended it. So I did do that. So right now I don't have any plugins. All right, so let's talk about what's new here. The first thing is the splash screen and logo, which you just saw. And then really the biggest change for this release is the entire slicing engine was replaced with the Arachne one. It's supposed to be a lot quicker across the board with the slicing, especially when you get into thin or more detailed prints. It's supposed to really help with overall quality. There was a couple things that I noticed when doing some testing here. I'll show in a couple minutes. So like I said, this is the Arachne engine, kind of just talking about it a little bit. And this goes into the speed difference, which I do have a couple examples here to show you. And some of the larger prints, I noticed that it is significantly quicker. Like I said, I'll show you here in a second. But there were a couple prints where it was actually slower. So I don't know if it's just the type of print, but I did want to use a couple different samples. So I did that, and most of them were quicker, but there was one in particular that was slower, which I'll show you here in a minute. It has better integration with the marketplace. So if you're using that market, that could be beneficial to you. I don't typically use it too much. And then it also has better integration with their printers, which again, if you have one of their printers, that's great. I'm just using this with my Creality printers right now. And then they talked about the Academy before, but it's just more that was added to it. And then in the release notes here, it kind of talks about all of the changes in a little bit more detail, which I just mentioned most of them, except for the shrinkage compensation for PLA. I haven't really played with this too much, so I don't know how much it actually makes a difference, but it is something that is new with this release and something I did want to start playing with it a little bit more, but I can't really speak to if it actually helps anything or not yet. And then the other thing here that's relevant is they have a lot of bug fixes, which is good for the stability of the platform itself. Then scrolling down a little bit further here, you can see that they added additional definitions for machine profiles and materials for a couple different printers and some filaments. All right, so let's go ahead and close that. So one thing I wanted to show you here is I'm going to drag the Baby Yoda image that I use for a lot of my tests in here. So let me grab that really quick. All right, so I went ahead and dragged that into both of them. What I'm going to do here for the test is I'm going to set both of these to the standard quality profiles, the default ones, not any of my custom ones, which I will be uploading some custom ones here pretty soon. I just want to get a little bit more testing done. So hopefully I'll have those on my website here in the next week or so. But here, standard quality, let's go ahead and slice it here and then jump over to 413. As you can see here, the standard quality profile and slice. All right, so here over in Cura 5, you can see that it's looking at about 6 hours and 46 minutes to print and using 59 grams of filament. Jumping over to 413, it's 7 hours and 47 minutes using 60 grams of filament. So that's a pretty substantial difference. I think that has a lot to do with the Arachne engine and how it's accounting for the lines and some of the more detailed areas. But the other one I wanted to show you really quick, let me drop these two out. It's just basically a bowl lid from something I printed. I'm going to slice that really quick on 413, jump back over to 5. So in 5, it's showing 5 hours and 38 minutes using 43 grams of filament. And 413, it's showing 5 hours and 23 minutes using 42 grams of filament. So for some reason, the Arachne engine is adding about 15 minutes to the print time for this specifically. I couldn't quite figure out what the issue was or why it's adding the extra time. But it is something to keep in mind that most of the prints did end up reducing the print time, but that just wasn't the case across the board. And I guess at the end of the day, an extra 15 minutes for something like this isn't a big deal, especially when a lot of the other ones that I've tested ended up reducing it by 15-20%. So overall, it's definitely a significant upgrade to the engine. One thing really quick, I showed you the splash screen difference, but here are the actual icon differences. This was 413 and here's 5. You can see they do look different. I do like the new style overall. It's a little bit cleaner. And once everything was loaded, I haven't really seen any differences as far as usability or anything in the UI that has changed on that side. Alright, so that covered most of the differences with Cura 5. Like I said, the biggest ones are going to be the Arachne engine, which is significant. And then there's a couple smaller ones around the splash screen icons and stuff like that. And then a lot of bug fixes. I kind of expected there to be a pretty significant change this time around, which that ended up being the case with the Arachne engine, just because it took so long to get the release out. They were averaging a release about every, 5 or 6 weeks, give or take. And this one, the last one was about 2 months ago, if I remember correctly. So it did take a little bit more time. I expect that they're going to be tweaking the Arachne engine and having more releases coming out pretty soon. So I don't know if they'll do like a 5.1 or a 5.0.1, just like a quick patch if there's something that comes up. I guess it depends what issues they start finding or what tweaks they want to make, whether they want it to be a feature or more of just a straight bug fix for a critical release. But if you have any questions about what I covered here or would like to see any other videos, go ahead and leave a comment below or join us on Discord. Thanks. Alright guys, so that covered what's new in Cura 5. I figured this would be a pretty short video, which it was, but the actual slicing engine being completely swapped out is pretty nice. The Arachne engine is pretty sweet, so I'm looking forward to see what they can do with that. I expect that they'll be making enhancements on that over the course of the next couple of releases just to tweak things. It is currently in beta release, so it's possible that they'll tweak some things before they actually GA it. If they make any changes that are worth updating the video on, I'll either A, make a separate video to kind of cover those changes, or B, just add them to the video description. Based on what I've seen in the past, I don't think there'll be anything major, but with the engine swap out, it's hard to say for sure. If you guys have any questions about what I covered today or like to see any other videos, go ahead and leave a comment below or join us on Discord. Thanks.